Okay, I needed to come up with a solution for moving trailers around. And I know they make attachments for your 3-point hitch that are just for, that have a ball on it and that kind of thing, just for moving trailers around. But I didn't want to have to, buy another implement just for that. So I had seen this idea before. Okay, so that was just a little solution that I was working on for moving trailers around. Off to the next job. Okay, I have another job to do today, and that has to do with a little bit of work on the excavator that I just bought. So this is a Kubota KX040. This is a 2014 model, and it's got some scratches, things like that. It's got a little bit of some denting that has gone on the side of that, and these kind of scratches that you see back here on the counterweight, they're really not that unusual for these models that do not have the tight swing. In other words, this house swings outside of the width of the tracks. And then operators will run these things into trees and stuff like that sometimes. It's not completely unusual to see that. It's kind of unusual not to see it, to be honest with you. But for a 2014 model that has 2,600 hours on it, the exterior has got scratches and stuff, but mechanically it's a very, very sound machine. And so I have a lot of things around my property that I've been putting off for a lot of years. Sometimes I'll rent the excavators, and then other times I'll just put them off, and I'll say, okay, well, that'll be, for one of those times where I can rent an excavator for about a week or so, and I'll try to knock out all these things. So there's been a lot of things that I've been putting off over the years that I knew that I would need an excavator to do. And finally, I just, did some maneuvering as far as vehicles are concerned and stuff like that, and I just decided to buy one. So there's going to be a learning curve for me. I mean, over the years, I've only rented them, and then a lot of times, half of the time during that period that I had it for the rental, I was getting accustomed to it. So, there'll be a learning curve here to get accustomed to it again, but I'll get it down. It's a very nice machine. This is not quite 10,000 pounds without the enclosed cab. I think manufacturer's specs say that it's somewhere around 9,500 pounds. Anyway, I got a 24-inch bucket with it. I got a thumb, and the tracks were in good shape. The drive sprocket's in good shape. Mechanically, everything is sound. But what I have here that I need to address today is this is one of the four-way blades, in that the blade goes up and down, and it also canters in and out. And so this cylinder right down here is the one that controls the blade as far as the tilt on the blade is concerned. And what I noticed, I did not notice when I was looking at this machine, but I only noticed it after I got it home. And I hate when that happens to me, that I don't see something when I'm looking at it and I find out about it later. But anyway, this is a cover. This is a heavy steel U-shaped cover that protects this cylinder right here. And it should be up in approximately this position. It has kind of a rail that it rides on. I don't know if you're going to see it down in there. But down in there, it has kind of a rail that it rides on. And as this blade comes in and out, this steel cover right here that covers that cylinder should slide in and out with it. But what happened was it got bent, and I don't know where the bolt is. So obviously this should be straight. There should be a bolt in there, and when this blade comes in and out, then that should slide back and forth with it. Your option is to just beat that thing off of there and take it off. But I don't want to do that because, you know, it's kind of important to have because it protects the cylinder right here. And with that cylinder being so low to the ground, it's going to be subject to, you know, whatever you're tracking over. It could be rocks, it could be roots, it could be just sand that's getting up and getting, you know, exposing itself to this this wiper seal right here that's on the cylinder. And so I think the best thing to do there is to make sure that that thing's in place. So first and foremost, I need to get this thing bent back straight again. And then I'll get my thread gauge and see what that thread count is on that, and see if I can come up with a bolt for it. If not, then I might just put a tack weld around it. I'll have to look at that. I don't see why I can't. I might just put a tack weld around it and see if I can get it to hold that way. So anyway, that's what I want to do right now, is just do a little work on my new excavator. So I'm looking forward to this. I've been wanting one of these for a long time, and you know, some folks that know me, I've been kind of kidding around on Facebook, you know, that I wanted Santa to bring me one, and of course he didn't. So, you know, you just got to make these things happen for yourself. So anyway, let's knock this project out and see if I can get that fixed. All right, so I've been looking at this, and so I guess the best thing to do is just hope for the easy solution first, and let's see if I can beat that bend back into place again. That's some pretty thick steel, so we will see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to support it. I'm going to support it right there with this 2x4. Hold that, and then I'm going to see. I might have way too much play in that, but and the reason I'm going for this solution first is because I just realized that I don't have any gas in my torch. My first thought was I was gonna heat this up and see if I could beat that back into place. I don't have any gas, so let's just see if I can beat it back into place. And if that doesn't work, there's other means of heating that up. But let me try this first, see what I can come up with. Support it. Support it right there. Yeah, this is all cattywampers. I'm right-handed, and this is a left-handed job. All right, let's see if I can do it. It's moving. That's good. That's good, that's good, that's good. Let's beat it some more. Moved. Oh man, that's close enough as far as I'm concerned. See, what happens is as this cylinder comes in and out, this will slide back and forth with the cylinder, and it'll always keep it protected. And so that's in there close enough where I could get a bolt in that. All right, so now I need to figure out what kind of bolt is going to go in there. So let me see if I can figure out the thread count on that. Okay, so here's what I came up with. Obviously, I was able to get this beat into place, and then it was just going to be a matter of being able to find a bolt for it. So you know, I got to tell you, one of the most frustrating things that I deal with on our farm is when it comes to getting hardware for something. It can stop a project in a second. It can stop a job that you're doing. Piece of equipment fails, and you just don't have the hardware. But fortunately, what happened here is that I got to looking around down here, and I just thought that this looked like it might be a bolt that would probably fit it. I was just hoping that Kubota would be, one of those companies that, they put like-size bolts around the machine. And so what I did is, my philosophy on this is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So I took that bolt out right there. I tried it in that hole, and it worked, except that it was too long. But it gave me some vital information that I needed. One, I was able to get my thread count gauge out of my tap and die set, and I was able to determine the thread count of that bolt. And the other thing I was able to do is, I have a diameter gauge, or basically a drill size gauge, what a lot of people call them, and I was able to determine the diameter of the bolt. So it was a 3/8 inch bolt with a thread count of 20 threads per inch. And then in my hardware selection, I found a bolt that would fit it. So this bolt right here is about a 1/2 inch shorter than that one that I used as the test bolt, and it worked. So I'm just going to put a washer and a lock washer on it, and I should be in business. But just to let you know some of the frustration that you go through sometimes when it comes to hardware. I'll show you kind of what the process that I go through here is frustrating sometimes. So I ended up using one of my last resort hardware kits, and sometimes down in our area here where we live, they have a big fair every year, and there's a lot of people that set things out on the side of the road, and you go by and you just kind of look at stuff that people are selling. It's kind of like a big gigantic flea market that goes along with this big fair that they have. But I am in constant search of hardware, because it stops me in my tracks so frequently around here that I've just become kind of this crazed person with making sure that I have hardware. So this happens to be a kit that I bought years ago, and it was a guy that was selling a bunch of these containers right here that just had various assorted hardware in them, and I have a couple more of them down there. But just to show you what kind of a freak I am about hardware, all hardware in all of these containers right here. I'm back here behind all my GoPro stuff, and all hardware that I have. It's crazy. All hardware in these drawers that I have right here. All hardware that are in these. And so I just went through all of those a little while ago to find that one bolt, and I found it, and it ended up being in one of these ones that I bought. Oh man, it must have been 15, 17 years ago. I don't know, but I found it in there. So anyway, I used the thread count gauge, I used the drill size gauge, or the diameter of the bolt gauge, and I found what I needed. So we will go ahead and get that in. Okay, I got that on there and I got everything all greased up. And so let's make sure that it works. I got a helper here to help me. Go ahead and lift the blade up. Okay, go to the left. Go to the right. Go to the left. Go to the right. All right, put it down. Nice, looks like everything's working. All right, we got that fixed. Thank you, Betty. Appreciate it.